ambassadors, ministers, special invited guests, and everyone from the diaspora. Welcome to a very special edition of DMs with PM. This evening is not just another conversation. It's about connection. Connection between leadership and people. Connection between Grenadians at home, also those of you here for the Diaspora Homecoming, and of course, Grenadians across the world. And most importantly, connection through honest, open dialogue. We are coming to you live from the Radisson Grenada Beach Resort, also via YouTube, Facebook, Power FM, Star FM, WeFM, GBN, Fusion FM, Vibes FM, and GIS. This evening, we're bringing you something a little different, the Diaspora Live Audience Edition. So whether you're here in this room or joining us online from New York, London, Toronto, or right here in the Caribbean, your voice, your perspective, and your stake in this country matters. This evening, you won't just be listening. You'll be part of the conversation. Now, at the center of it all is a man tasked with leading this nation through opportunity, challenge, expectations, and more. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, please join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of Grenada, the Honorable Dickon Mitchell. Thank you so very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Welcome to our new set.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. You look resplendent.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you very much for giving me a live audience. I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to live audiences. We're normally in a little small studio. So thank you everyone for staying for the day. If you've been here since this morning, and for those who may have just come for this, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Wonderful. Now, we know how quickly an hour goes, and of course, with being a live audience, we have to get on with the business of the day. And like we said, it is about you, the room. It's about you asking your questions, you getting the answers directly. And for those of you on the live, remember today we would not be having your live call-ins or your DMs. What we will be doing, though, is getting the questions from our audience. So once again, welcome, and it is a pleasure to have each and every one of you join us for this special edition of DMs with PM. And it so happens it's the grand, you know what? I'm not going to say it yet. At the end. Now, PM. You often interact with Grenadians abroad. What stories or experiences from the diaspora have had the greatest impact on you personally?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think the greatest impact is the sheer passion of the diaspora. Wherever I go, the enthusiasm, the joy, the prayers, the following, the picture taking, the recommendations are all pouring out like a river. So that tells me that the diaspora is tuned in, it's paying attention, and it wants to be part and parcel of what is happening. And I think that resonates almost in every area that I've been where a Grenadian shows up. I'll give you an example. I think I went to Qatar, and a Grenadian family showed up. A pilot, Grenadian, who lives and works in Qatar with his wife and kids. And they spent probably an hour and a half with me just talking about the experiences here and what they can share with me in terms of helping to support the things we're doing in Grenada, and that's just an example. So wherever I go, a Grenadian shows up. I was in Greece, and a Grenadian showed up. When I asked the story, how did you end up here? She said, well, she migrated to Russia, of all places, in the 1980s, found a husband, and they then migrated back to Greece. So it's just an example of the fact that the diaspora is not just, in a sense, the traditional place of North America or London, but it's all over the world, and China. There are Grenadians in China. So all over the world you find Grenadians, and it's the same story. I think they contribute significantly to the nations they live in, and they are very interested in continuing to contribute to Grenada.
Before we continue with the business of the day, can we get some applause for the outfit? And we did it. As a matter of fact, I think we want a full view. We just saw you sauntering across. So we need a stand and look. That's more like a 360.
I'm not practiced at this, so forgive me.
No, the outfit is outfitting. All right, so still in the diaspora, what does the Grenadian diaspora mean to you as Prime Minister and a fellow Grenadian?
Well, I should start by, in a sense, giving a little bit about my own personal experience with the diaspora. Both my parents migrated to the UK and to Canada, respectively, for an extended period of my life. So, and most of my siblings, except for one, are current members of the diaspora, spread over London, California, Washington, Toronto. So, in a sense, I feel part and parcel of my own experience has been constant interaction with the diaspora. And I think when the MC for this morning's program talked about growing up and always having an aunt or an uncle or sister or brother in the diaspora, I think that rings true for most Grenadians. So we understand, I think, the role the diaspora has always played in the lives of Grenadians, and it represents, I think, a search for improvement. I don't think people migrate simply because they want to migrate. Oftentimes people migrate because there are push or pull factors, but there's always a willingness to come and to give back and to help support what's happening here. So that has been my own experience. I could certainly say, for example, both my parents, I think, economically, are better off for having migrated to the diaspora, but having done so, they are both back in Grenada. And it's an example, I think, of what many of the persons who live and go to the diaspora are aspiring to do, which is to go build the country they're in, but also build themselves and be able to come back and help build Grenada. So I think that's really the story for me of the diaspora.
Okay. Where do you... They're getting their keys. Where do you envision the relationship between Grenada and its diaspora 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I expect that the diaspora will help us shape some of the strategic critical issues that we are trying to shape in Grenada. Education, healthcare, energy, sustainable infrastructure. I mean, we use the word diaspora a lot, but for me, it's really Grenadians, wherever Grenadians are. And I think it's important for us to emphasize that fact, and that is necessary because we also have to recognize the limitations of living only in a small island. Having an expansive view, being tolerant, paying attention to changes in technology, paying attention to changes in systems, structure, culture, all of those things matter. And if you don't have the exposure, it's easy to become very short-sighted. It's easy to become very parochial and think that, you know, your little island is doing well when it may not be. So I think having Grenadians who travel, who are connected, who are part of the international global community is critical for us, because I think the best examples of success in Grenada are the examples where Grenada is interconnected with the world. We can take St. George's University as a perfect example. We can take our tourism and hospitality industry as a perfect example. They are successful because they are plugged in and interconnected with the rest of the world. If we don't have that connection, then it will be very difficult to grow. So it's important for us to recognize that Grenadians everywhere, regardless of the geographic location, is critical and should be an integral part of the development that needs to take place in Grenada. I'll give an example. Persons in the diaspora are now asking whether they can vote and whether they have to, come home to vote. Our current laws require you to come home to vote. But the question is, should that remain that way? Should there be a discussion as to whether or not we move to recognize that there may be technologies available that allow Grenadians to vote without having to be here and to be able to shape who takes political leadership of the country? Those are just examples of the kinds of conversations that I think we have to have, and not simply because our constitution or laws of yesterday mandated physical residence. Perhaps at a time when travel, interconnection, the technology was not available. It doesn't mean that we have to stick with it. So that's the kind of, I think, changes that we'd have to discuss and debate about and hopefully agree upon as we go forward.
Because they always say the people in the diaspora is bigger than who actually live on the island. So we have to make sure that they're included in the process, as well as evolution.
And that's how we increase the population, by counting the diaspora. Because I don't think we can make children fast enough to be able to increase the population size.
I don't think anyone is taking heed to that making children right now from you. Now, if every Grenadian abroad could contribute one thing to the nation's progress, what would you hope that contribution would be?
You're not asking very easy questions today.
Yes, you have to go.
I think I would recommend that they encourage Grenadians to be more productive.
Oh, wow.
I think it's important for us to recognize that countries that are successful because their people are productive. There's no other way to skirt around this. There's no other way to avoid this. You can't be productive by not working. And that productive is not just in a sense physical or manual labor, but it's also being solution-oriented, being creative, looking at the problems and trying to find solutions to them, and whether those solutions lead to economic prosperity or political cohesion or social cohesion. That's what is going to build a country. You simply cannot get up every day and exist and then hope your country will be successful. So all of us need to make sure we understand that we have to talk productivity, we have to be productive, we have to have a mindset that says we need to grow. And that's the only way in which the country will be better off 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I think if we consistently talk about this, then you would find all of us are going to be more successful.
If there were a prize for unpredictable responses, you would definitely get it, because that was not the answer I was thinking you would give. But before we go to break shortly, though, how is your government strengthening engagement with Grenadians living overseas and ensuring that their voices are heard in national decision making? Because it's heard otherwise. They're very loud in the diaspora. But how can we get them involved in the decision making process?
I was going to say that this is probably the most self-evident part of the exercise we're having over the last 2 weeks. The fact that we're having the diaspora homecoming, the fact that we're having a forum like this, the fact that we had today and we have today and tomorrow are clear examples of how much I think we tuned into the diaspora, not just from a lip service or saying there's a diaspora desk, but from real engagement. I think 3 weeks ago, I was in Montreal, Toronto, a couple weeks before that, New York. And at least from, prior to me being involved in public life, when I looked at media broadcasts or snippets of our political leaders' engagement with the diaspora, it was always centered around 3 things: either falling out, where they've been accused of, or giving bad reports about Grenada, either a clear call for help, either in response to a natural disaster or something of the sort, as opposed to strategic conversations about where Grenada is going and what do we need you to be involved in. So when I travel, the team, Project Polaris team, travels and is able to talk about healthcare. The Minister of Health is able to talk about healthcare. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is able to talk about the things we need them to do. So the engagement is ensuring that the diaspora doesn't think this is just about tokenism. I've talked about the fact that many of our leading statutory bodies are actually led by persons in the diaspora. And it's important for us to appreciate that the statutory bodies in Grenada control more of the country's assets than the central government. If you come to our Grenlex and NOASAs and Airports Authority and Port Authority and Solid Waste Management Authority, they control perhaps $2-3 billion of assets compared to the central government's $1 billion annual budget base. So the leadership of these institutions are very critical to the direction in which the country goes, and it's important therefore for us to ensure that we leverage the human capacity that the diaspora has to help us move a lot of these organizations into the area that we need them to go. And I could just give examples. I mean, Damien Dolan, who's sort of our chief advisor on Project Polaris, is a member of the diaspora. Andrea St. Bernard, who came back, is in a sense also a returning member of the diaspora. People like Randall Dolan, who's sitting here, he spent considerable time in the US as well. We can go on and on. So perhaps the people who are doing this, I'm giving you a call, you should let the diaspora know that you spent significant time in the diaspora and that you're here helping, so that you can encourage them to come home and do the same as well.
Okay, wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we just concluded the first part of DMs with PM, live from Radisson Grenada Beach Resort. And we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more. In the meantime, get your questions together, because we will be coming to you shortly as well. All right? And of course, we also have some giveaways. We'll let you know what you have to do. But in the meantime, we'll be back in a bit. Thank you. Victory. So ask the other. And welcome back once again to all our viewers on YouTube and Facebook, and of course those of you listening via radio, and to a wonderful guest in the Radisson Grenada Beach Resort, a live audience. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being part of the first ever DMs on the outside. Now we're back with a couple more questions, Mr. Prime Minister, and I'm sure you've heard frequently from returning nationals different challenges they may have. How is the government addressing them?
So I think first, it's partly a cultural challenge. If you live in a society that is much larger, much more organized, coming back to island life requires, in a sense, an adjustment to what has happened. And having the diaspora desk, I think, is one of the key reasons for setting this up, because you do have cultural nuances that you have to sometimes adjust back to. That's one. The second challenge, I think, oftentimes is the service delivery that members of the diaspora experience, particularly with public service, public officers. It's not just an issue for the diaspora, it's an issue for the country. And ensuring that over time we can train our public officers, train our public servants to make them understand, just like tourism, service is everybody's business. And having service standards, having specifications, ensuring that the staff is trained to return your calls, to answer, to follow up, to explain what's happening is part and parcel of the public service transformation that has to happen. Unfortunately, because of the challenges we face in the public service, it will take a little longer than we would like it to be, because we've had to settle a lot of deep-seated grievances within the public sector, and we're still seeking to do so. And then the next stage is to really make sure that the public service becomes service-oriented, becomes service-driven, and that they appreciate that the public actually needs to receive top-class service, just as you get in the private sector. I think that's one of the second issues that I hear frequent complaints about. And then the third one would be the modernization of, I think, government services itself. And that means moving a lot of this onto digital platforms that can allow the diaspora and citizens at home to be able to have access to government services 24/7, and that eliminates a lot of the personal biases you find when human beings are left to make decisions about whether to process your file quickly or not. So digitizing a lot of the services, whether it's passport services, whether it's tax filing services, are all part and parcel of what the government is currently embarking upon, so that we can make a lot of these services a lot more affordable, a lot more accessible, and actually a lot more efficient, both from a government perspective and from the citizens' perspective. So those are three main areas that we are working on. And then the fourth, I think, is making sure that we are a lot more specific in terms of where we think the diaspora can play a meaningful or critical role. And we've begun to identify those areas. For example, housing. That's one area that I think the diaspora is clearly interested in. It's one area where there's a huge opportunity, and making sure that we can build up the infrastructure and the structure to channel the requests, to channel the interest, whether it's from an investment or from a consumer point of view, that will certainly help. So that is part of the reason for having the Diaspora Homecoming. We can have those conversations, and then coming out of that, create the structures that will allow us to have more seamless integration of the diaspora into Grenadian culture and what is happening here.
Is there a question you don't have the answer to? You know what I really wish one day? That I ask you a question and you'd say, I don't have an answer.
I thought I've done that before, but...
No, you haven't.
Okay, well, I'll try.
We're yet to see that one. Now, how can members of the diaspora contribute their skills, expertise, and networks to support Grenada's transformational, Grenada's development agenda?
I could say I don't have an answer.
But you will give an answer.
Well, I think they're doing so already. I talked about the examples of serving on the statutory bodies and boards. A second area I would think is mentorship, particularly at the secondary and high school level. I know of some persons in the diaspora who have already taken an approach of adopting schools so that they can actually, whenever they're on vacation, and you don't have to come for that purpose, but if you're visiting family and friends, for example, you can dedicate a day or two of your time to visit our schools, to take on mentorship with students, with teachers, with principals, with parents, particularly to make sure that the children in the school understand that there is no limit, or there ought not to be limits to their ambitions. So I think successful Grenadians, one of the critical things you can do is be a hero to a young Grenadian, be an inspiration to a young Grenadian, because that is what kids want. They want to emulate someone. And so when they meet someone who's successful, who's traveled the world, but who's still humble and who's still prepared to come back and give back to Grenada, I think that's one of the greatest things persons in the diaspora can do. It certainly would, I think, leave a memorable impression on the kids. And you probably find that when they become successful, they will tell you the stories of someone who they interacted with that inspired them, that allowed them to dream and to aspire to be successful. So that's one area that I think the diaspora can help with. The other area I would pay particular attention to is education. And I would say in basic things like math and literacy. That's the challenge currently on the island. Many of the kids are not reading at the levels they should be reading at, and math is a serious challenge. There is one example of a Grenadian who's already back and has created a math lab in Woodlands, and I've been supporting him to work with 2 of the secondary schools in St. David to ensure that he can give back and help to train the teachers, but also to work directly with the students to improving their approach to math. So there are examples of this that I think could be replicated throughout the island. So I'm not talking here about the investment or the economic aspect, but I think just the human development, the human capacity side, there are significant opportunities for assistance in those areas.
Okay, fantastic. We are just about ready to get into the next segment, but before we do, we have to take another quick break, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll be right back with our DMs from the street.
Welcome to Caracou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dong Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. Hungry? Start your day at Las Iguanas Cafe in Hermitage, where the aroma of fresh local breakfast fills the air. Think bakes, saltfish, and cocoa tea, all served with island hospitality. For lunch, savor local flavors at Paradise Beach Club, where Allison and her team serve up dishes that capture the essence of Caracou. Are you craving something quick and cheesy? Tina's Pizza is the local go-to spot. Hot, fresh, and always satisfying. As the sun sets, unwind with dinner at the original Slipway. Sip on a cocktail, enjoy gourmet dining by the water, and feel the calm of Caracou wrap around you. It's the perfect end to your day. Caracou is open. Hotels, restaurants, and your favorite spots are back and better than ever. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
And welcome back once again, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you here. And I'm only asking one thing. Are you enjoying so far? If you are, clap. If you're not, clap. Nobody's falling asleep, right? No. Right, great. All right, like we said, it's about the different segments. And of course, we are not in our actual studio, but we are in our Radisson Grenada Beach Resort studio. And it's about the Diaspora Homecoming. It's about you, the folks from the Diaspora, here today to ask your questions. But before we get to you, I want to go to my co-host, Norris, with DMs from the street.
Hi, I'm yours truly, Norris Francois. No, we are not in the streets of Grenada, but we are coming to you live from Radisson's Crown Ballroom with our special edition of Diaspora Homecoming, where you get the opportunity to ask the Prime Minister your questions directly. And yes, this is the season finale of DMs with PM. So come with me as we get the DMs from the hall, from the people that matter.
Thank you so much, Norris. Ready for our questions?
Yeah, 1, 2. All right, Prime Minister, welcome outside. For the first time outside the studio. My name is Junior George from Ride Along Live. And I have one question. And this question is so near and dear to my heart, I wrote it down, right? Very precise. Prime Minister, what are your thoughts on rideshare services like RideGo and the role that it plays in modernizing Grenada's transportation sector? Beyond transportation, how do rideshare contribute to job creation, tourism experience, and overall economic development in our country? From your perspective, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I think the answer is obvious, and I can repeat everything you just said. So yes, I support rideshare for one obvious reason, which is the country actually cannot afford to sustain every individual aspiring to own a vehicle and driving it on the nation roads. It's just not sustainable. So we already have as much as 80,000 vehicles on the island. And the population is a little over 100,000. So we almost have a vehicle per citizen. And I think you see the size, the width, and the terrain of our roadways. So it's not sustainable. So ideally, capping the number of private vehicles that are on island and having those vehicles deployed as part of a public transportation system by the use of rideshare technology is one of the obvious ways of solving the transportation challenge that we have on island in a sustainable manner. And I hate to say this, but there is no other option available for us. So I certainly support it. It will require change management. It will require stakeholders understanding what is at stake and ensuring that we live in an environment that is sustainable. There's an enormous quantity of derelict vehicles already stacked all over the island. And we have to now spend money to get this off the island. So if we talk about pure Grenada, you don't want a pure Grenada. When you drive through the Granatang Forest or you're on the coastal areas, you're seeing derelict vehicles all over the place. So that's one of the issues that we have to address. The second part of this is hopefully the rideshare is electric and hybrid vehicles and not diesel and gas vehicles. Because again, the cost of energy, and particularly the cost of fuel, is a significant challenge for us on the island. And we import the fuel to run combustible engines, and that, as is evident even today, the government is actually subsidizing the cost of fuel for everyone in the country by capping the cost of fuel currently. So even that is another challenge that we have to face. So from an employment point of view, obviously, lots of drivers, which means employment. From a sustainability point of view, it means reducing the number of vehicles that get onto the roadway. Also, the less vehicles we have on the roadways, the less money we have to spend on maintaining the roads. And I think you can see the state of the roads currently. We have to do a major overhaul of all of the roads throughout the length and breadth of Grenada. And when we do so, we have to be able to cap the number of vehicles and the weight of the vehicles that are on the roads to make sure that we get, in a sense, bang for our buck from the infrastructure work that we're going to do. So yes, I support the rideshare concept.
We have another question.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Tanisha Cephas. My company is West Rock Global. I am Grenadian by heritage. My grandparents were born in Grenada. So my question, Prime Minister Mitchell, is throughout history, nations have viewed their diaspora not simply as citizens living abroad, but as strategic partners who continue to contribute to financial capital, intellectual capital, global networks, and innovation. As Grenada pursues its long-term development agenda, if Grenada is unable to attract the level of diaspora engagement and human capital needed to achieve its national development goals. Also, the 2075 plan. What alternative strategies is the government considering to ensure the country remains competitive, innovative, and economically resilient over the next decade and on?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, there are a couple of things. I think from a domestic point of view, revamping the education system is critical. I talked earlier about the need to be productive. And if you don't have a well-educated population, it's difficult to imagine the population being productive or being productive in a manner that drives high-paying jobs or economic activity that is required. So the revamping of the education system is something that must happen regardless of whether we are able to attract the sort of investment that we need from the diaspora or from any third-party sources. So that's the first thing. The second issue is that from a diplomatic political alignment perspective, we are deliberately pursuing a strategy of direct engagements with countries and continents where we see the growth coming from and where we believe those countries have excess liquidity and that they are more inclined to partner with developing nations. So you would see, for instance, that we've deliberately pursued an African diplomatic strategy. This is not by coincidence. Even if you ignore all of the natural, historical, cultural links with Africa, even if you ignore that, the reality is obvious. Africa has the youngest population. By 2050, it's projected to be the most populous continent on the planet, and it is clear that the economic growth is going to come from Africa. So from an economic partnership point of view, it's obvious that and I would say it is better to be there early rather than late. So it is better to go in when the African countries themselves are seeking to develop, rather than waiting for them to be developed and then trying to have this sort of diplomatic, economic, or political ties that we have. But obviously, there's a natural reason why we should do so, given our ancestry and our history. That's one example. We've pursued deliberate diplomatic and political relations with the GCC countries, the Arab countries, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Qatar, whether it's the UAE, again, for obvious reasons. The one part of the world that has a bit of excess liquidity, and I think if you look at their own development over the last 50 years, these are countries you can learn from in terms of the very deliberate strategies pursued by the leadership to develop the countries and to put the countries on the map. And then thirdly, there are emerging countries, I will say particularly from Eastern Europe, anything that ends with Stan, Kazakhstan, etc., where we will be pursuing, obviously, I think a lot more diplomatic and economic ties with those countries, again, for the same reasons that we've given. That aside, we are also very much keen on solidifying our relationship with our traditional partners and in ensuring that we explain to them the challenges that our countries face from a development point of view. The main one being climatic and weather-related shocks, which they are responsible for. So that's sort of the strategy that we are pursuing. And then finally, I would say doubling down on our interconnection with the world. Right? Isolating yourself is not going to lead to economic development if you're a small island. So there are areas that we are very keen to pursue outside of the economic diplomatic areas. Logistics is one of the key issues that we think could ensure that Grenada remains a successful country. And that means modernizing our airport, modernizing our seaport, modernizing our data and internet capacities, and also making sure that we pursue a friends of all, enemies of none economic and political strategy with the rest of the world. I think if we do so, we should be in a position to continue attracting foreign direct investment. And the final piece I would say this is our banking and investment climate needs a revolution. Right? And I think if we do that, we will be in a position to attract capital outside of the diaspora. Of course, we'd like the diaspora to be a very key part of the revolution in the banking and investment climate and financial services climate that we need. But I hope I've answered your question.
We have another question.
Yes. Prime Minister, I have one dilemma right now. I cannot see anything. I cannot see you at all. I don't need my glasses to read, but I need it to see. So I am unable to see anybody in this room, but I do have two asks. I don't think I have a question, but I have two asks of you. And I'm going to read so I don't ad-lib. Prime Minister, I'm Stephanie Yulin Thomas, a Grenadian and founder of Beyond the Isles and Come On Connection, two organizations actively investing in Grenada's students and teachers. Through Come Connection, we've distributed 6,000 plus books, reached 500 plus students, held summer academies to prevent summer loss, and trained teachers directly in Grenada. I'd like to formalize that work. A partnership with the Ministry of Education will let us go further and reach more schools. My first ask. My second ask, which is the most dear to my heart, Beyond the Isles is a Grenada-registered nonprofit company that takes Grenadian secondary school students to Africa on fully funded, structured educational immersion programs. The goal is not tourism, it is identity. It is a young Grenadian standing on African ground and understanding in a way no classroom can fully deliver where they come from and what that means for where they are going. Grenadian students who know where they come from show up to school differently. They read differently, they write differently, they imagine their futures differently. Prime Minister, if this works, and I believe it will, it becomes a model for every small island in the Caribbean, a replicable framework for diaspora youth to reconnect with Africa through structured, educationally grounded travel. That is a regional story. It is a Caribbean story, and Grenada would be where it begins. I am not asking for funding at this stage. A letter of acknowledgement from your office is what unlocks international grants. That letter carries weight no private endorsement can match. Grenada gave me everything I needed to believe the world was worth showing up to. I want to give that to the next generation of Grenadian students. I would be grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. You have my support. If the Minister of Education was here, I'd ask him to sign the MOU. And I'd be happy to sign the letter that would endorse the program. So I think exposure is one of the key things we can give our students. And so thank you very much for the great work. And clearly you're a great example of the diaspora.
We have another question.
Good evening. I do not have a question, but I want to say I spent 4 days in the hospital in 2022, and they did a good job. But I have some complaints, which I'm not going to mention here, but they did a good job, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the hospital. But the project we have now, it's ours, and I'm asking you to ask all Grenadians, if it's one brick, one stone, $1, we could build it. We don't have to go looking here and looking there. We as Grenadians could do it. I don't know if everybody see the vision. I have a vision, and health is important. So, I mean, I'm a cancer survivor, still going and check every 6 months. My wife is a cancer survivor, and we can do it. So I'm just asking, Prime Minister, God sent you, and I'm thankful. We love you. But please, as Grenadians, let's bond. Let's bond and let's do it. I'm crying. I'm reaching out to you all of us. I mean, we don't have to look. Just look at ourselves. We're strong. We can do it. Please, let us build. They say we're building a hotel. Let it be a hotel. But let us get a hotel service in that hospital, please.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't think we could have asked for a better endorsement of the vision and the call for all of us to build the hospital, to help finance, is something that I support. The ministers of the government have already pledged, I think, 1 month of their salary. Yes, 1 month's salary every year until the hospital is built. And we're obviously quite keen to ask Grenadians everywhere to contribute. I will have the Ministry of Finance indicate the bank account that you can donate to. And I think the team is working on the PR campaign to begin the mobilization to ask Grenadians to help support the hospital. I met Grenadians in the diaspora. One lady in Toronto pulled me aside and actually said, there are a couple of us here who are millionaires, we'd be happy to support and donate towards the hospital. So I know there are other Grenadians who feel like you do and who are passionate about supporting this transformational project, which is key, I think, for all of us. So please donate, contribute towards the hospital cause.
Go right ahead.
Hi, good evening, Prime Minister. It's so good to see you here. I'm from Toronto originally, but I'm currently living in St. John's. So I have two questions for you. The first question is about transportation. I heard about the Ride app and services that are here to offer to all people, but I'm more of a local person. I like taking the buses and exploring how our local people travel and get around. So I would like to know, why is there such a fight to get a number 5 or number 7 along St. John's going all the way to Guave? I would like to see more increased transportation for the people there. And the second question I have is about women and children. I'm a psychotherapist and I have my own private practice. And I've done some work with the ministry here on mental health and wellness. And I have a lot of women sharing their stories with me that they need a lot of support. They need social care and assistance. Unfortunately, which is a global issue, not all the men are stepping up. And we understand that. But the women are left with a lot of responsibility. So I would like to know if there have been any discussions about how we can increase the social care and welfare for women and children in our community. And if you can address the transportation and how, you're able to manage that, I would like to know that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. I will take the latter question first. The simple answer is yes. Minister Gloria Thomas, who leads the Ministry of Social and Community Development, and her team are spending and will continue to spend a significant portion of time and resources to address many of the challenges women and children face. But I would say one obvious answer that I think can help that, which is we need to fix our men. Because to a large extent, if we keep saying we need to provide support to our women and children, the obvious cause is not being addressed. What we are dealing with is symptoms. And that is really the challenge of the Grenadian society, that requires honesty first and foremost, and then a comprehensive national plan that allows us to begin to fix our men. Because no matter what we say, men are half of the population, women are the other half. And when we say children, it's boys and girls similarly. And so I can tell you, I'm not a psychotherapist, but when I sit in my constituency office, the thing I use the most is tissues. Because the stories that I get from women, almost every half, 50% of the women I see, oftentimes they just need someone to speak to. And so whether it's tears, whether it's crying, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, I deal with a lot of this. So it's a bit of a roller coaster every time I'm in my constituency office. And a lot of it stems from the poor or no relationship or terrible relationships with men. And that's one of the significant challenges that causes a lot of the other social challenges that we have in our community. But that aside, there are enormous programs that the ministry is working on constantly. There are other challenges we face. The Child Protection Authority, for example, is adopting more and more children. That's not a matrix that says the country is going in the right direction. It should be the reverse, right? The prison is having more and more people going to prison. Again, that's not where we need to be heading. That's the wrong. If you have matrices that you are checking, that's not one of those you want to be proud of. So those are some of the challenges that underlie the society. And it's important for us to appreciate a government will not solve the problem. We can certainly lead, we can advocate, we can put resources towards it, but it requires a collective effort. Church, NGOs, there are things we're going to have to do differently. The minister has been championing classes in parenting. And I've had parents who come to me indicating to me that they were happy to have gone through the process because they took out all of their frustrations on their children, without recognizing, in fact, that they have their own personal challenges that they need to work on first if they are to be good parents. So it's something that is the darker underbelly of our society, but it is something that we have to shine a light on. And I think each of us individually and collectively would have to take steps to address some of the challenges that we face. We see it in schools, we see it in churches. You know, I say to people in the church all the time, what's the point of being in church if when you get to your own church there are 10 people there and it's empty and you sing and praise and you worship, and then you exit the church and you could see 30, 40 young men sitting on a Sunday morning at 6 o'clock drinking rum on the side of the road, right? The church has to go to them. If we're not doing this, we will continue in the trajectory that we're currently on. So that's just an example of what I mean, that all of us in the society has to be able to tackle the issues that will protect our women and protect our children. But most of the protection is from men. And that is why we need to be able to fix our men to make sure that we are not dealing with symptoms, but we're addressing the cause. Finally, on the transportation, I could spend the whole day speaking about the transportation, but I will simply say to you, we are working on it. There's one major thing we have to appreciate. Public transportation in Grenada is private. It is owned by private, all of the buses are owned by private individuals. And whatever the limitations of that, we have to acknowledge that. We have to be supportive of the fact that they provided the service over the last 30 years. And as a government, we can't simply come in rushing and then decide we will jettison them or put them aside and not work with them. So we are seeking to work with them. As late as yesterday, we had a comprehensive meeting with them where we provided them some of the results of a consultancy study that we've been doing on how we address the cost of the fares, the regularity, etc. They have to come back to us, but there are some structural challenges in the system. And until we're able to address some of this, we'll talk a lot, but we'll not be able to make the improvements. But I can say to you, we have a Ministry of Transportation, we have a Transport Commission, we have a Permanent Secretary who's very dedicated and in the last 6 months has already done enormous work in terms of getting us to begin to address some of the issues that we will have to address with our public transportation system. We have grant funding from the government and people of China to provide us with at least 30 electric buses. We are hoping to get this by the first quarter of 2027. I'm pushing for 2026, but realistically it's probably 2027. We're also working on a school bus transportation system. We've done a pilot already. We've done a pilot, so we know what it costs, we know what the challenges are, but we are hoping once we can, in a sense, iron out some of those challenges, that we can begin to roll this out on a phased basis so that we can protect our children from the ravages of the current public transportation system that they face on a daily basis, whether it's drunkenness, drug abuse, loud music, we can go on, and we have to be able to protect our children from being in that environment. So that's one of the other issues we are working on as well.
Okay. I see that we have some folks waiting to ask questions. I'm just asking you to wait a little bit more because we have to take another quick break. The Prime Minister needs to take a sip, and then we'll come right back.
Diaspora, homecoming, together, we winning. It's your time now, homecoming is our time now. Grenada is our time now. We standing proud, diaspora all over the world. Friends, families, we time. We love to see the greatness you're bringing. For diaspora homecoming, ideas, experience all them thing. Together all are we winning. We love to see the ideas you're bringing. For diaspora homecoming, all over the globe, so we striving. Is a better nation we building. Hey. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Bring the young, the old, is all our we business. We Prime Minister is a visionary man. He chatting because with the prosperous plan. Come on, experience, make connection. When you come, we spice we planting. Festival of flavors, investment round table. Tell your neighbors, homecoming is your time now. Homecoming is our time now. Grenada is our time now. the greatness you're bringing for Diaspora homecoming. I just experience all them things.
Thank you so much, and welcome back. I would love for you to give yourselves a round of applause for being an awesome audience. I believe we have some more questions from the audience, so we'll get to that now. Go right ahead.
Okay, good evening, Prime Minister. This is not a question, more like a statement. You spoke about members of the diaspora mentoring young people in Grenada. I have been here for 13 years. I've taught maths away from Grenada for 25 years. I've offered my services to at least 3 secondary schools in Grenada, including PAMS, where I've sent a CV and everything, and the response have been 0.
All right, well, I'll get involved.
I just wondered if you had any comments. I'm still here with a lot of free time.
Well, make sure I get your contact details after the show, and I will get involved myself.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good evening.
We have another question.
Good evening. My name is Andre Glean. I grew up in the parish of St. John's, and I currently reside in Canada. I am an engineer, and the reason I say that, growing up in the parish, I've heard all my life that there's a lot of fear for people traveling on the western side road. So as an engineer, my question is there any plans to address the steep slopes, and when we do have rainfall, the landslides for the western side? And in addition to that, is there any plans for to boost business growth for the western side of the island? We had panels earlier today. We discussed the fact that there's no banks on the western side anymore, especially the last one was shut down in Guelph. So we're just trying to figure out how can we drive more economic growth to St. John's.
Thank you for the question, and as an engineer, I'll ask you to perhaps suggest some solutions for us to treat with the slope stabilization and the retaining walls. So I think for context, because it's important, access to St. John has been limited for almost 30 years by us not just doing basic things like addressing the Mabuya collapse of the road. It's important for us to appreciate that. When we took office, the section as soon as you exit Gov has been inaccessible for almost 30 years. That's the main artery of the West Coast. So for me, it's been baffling that as a nation, we've accepted this, right? So we've taken the position that you must be able to drive from St. George to Gov on the main road. So that's the first point. And so we are repairing Mabuya. We expect that by the first quarter of 2027, it should be completed. That's why we insisted on paying particular attention to the Molyneux landslip to make sure that we got the bridge constructed and so you can drive. So that's the first, I think, 2 points that we're addressing. The third point is then we will engage in the bridges, because you talked about the slopes and the stabilization, but most of the bridges of the West Coast do not permit dual carriage traffic. You have to wait for one vehicle to pass and then another vehicle can pass. So that's the second issue that we have to address. And there's a critical reason why we have to address it. The geothermal project has a site in St. John. In order to get the drilling bits up to that site, the road has to be wide enough for the drilling bits to be able to pass. And so the bridges is something we're going to have to address. And then I think the third part of this would in fact be slope stabilization. And in cases where retaining walls or rock sea defenses would need to be built, we would have to address it. The truth is our topography is challenging. It's very difficult, and it requires enormous resources to constantly keep it at the standards that we need. But that is why we think taking a more long-term approach to road maintenance is critical. In the past, we've allowed contractors to build roads with no maintenance aspects of the contracts. So that is something that has to be introduced. If people are building roads, you need to have a provision where they also maintain the roads and that we can pay attention to the slope stabilization. We're also using drone technology so that we can get a better sense of the topography and to be able to identify the riskier areas so that we can begin to plan better for emergency responses. But it is a challenge. I will not deny that. In the long term, perhaps if we get enough resources from oil and gas, we can build a highway through the sea. That gets us from St. George's to St. Patrick in 30 minutes.
I think he also mentioned he's an engineer, so maybe he can lend us some of his expertise.
His last name tells you he's an engineer, so so we certainly would be happy to rely on some of his expertise as well.
Fantastic. We have another question.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Hazel Noel, and I'm the founder of a new kind of band called A Different Kind of Mass. And the reason why I wanted to speak, because you mentioned about adopting schools. So right now, I'm a retiree, and I decided to adopt all the schools in Grenada. So for Carnival this year, I have the idea of the kids in the creative class create their costume and come play with me. So what I think right now, Carnival is no longer about storytelling. I see it as sex selling, because somewhere or sometime, we in Grenada have to put down our foot on these foreigners that's coming in, making people spend thousands of dollars for just these feathers and stuff like that, and cut off the average Grenadian who cannot afford to play mass. And the children, when they go to look at the mass, all they're seeing is nakedness and vulgarity and nudity. And I think it's about time we take back Carnival and make the children see that Carnival is about storytelling, not this vulgarity. I spoke to the Minister of Culture, which he had directed me to the right people. The Ministry of Education has approved it. I'm so grateful that I have our school in St. Davis Secondary School. I have 4 schools that's going to participate. The other schools, they told me that they are Christians, or some schools, they wasn't sure about it. So I think this is like a pilot project. And 2027, I think we should be able to get all the schools involved. But right now, I just think that we can use our students also as designers. Why do we always have to go to China and stuff like that? We have the kids here, but they never get the opportunity when they do their creative work or their sewing to go and showcase their stuff. They do it in school and they put it in their mother's house and leave it right there. Right now, I want them to showcase what they make on Lagoon Road so that people can see, where did these kids come from? They are Grenadians, born and bred, and I want them to do that. So I've adopted the schools in Grenada to do that. And I want your help and your backing. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I support what you said wholeheartedly. And I want to emphasize this. So I consider myself a liberal as well. But nudity and the bikini and the costume masks, you get it everywhere. And if you are selling Grenadian masks, there has to be things that are uniquely Grenadian. And if you go to I wouldn't even say intercall. If you go to the school sports, for instance, you would see that the kids and the teachers design their costumes. They do the march past, they've got the marching bands. And I've actually said this. I was sitting in last just, I think, looking at the St. David's primary school sports. And I said both to the Minister of Youth and Sports and to the Minister of Education, the schools should have their own carnival. Because it will allow for the creativity, it will allow for the music, the drumming, the dancing, and coming out of that, it will shape their view of what culture is and their view of their own morality, as opposed to a lot of what happens today. So I wholeheartedly support what you're saying. In addition, of course, we have our unique art forms like the maypole, which we saw this morning, the moko jumbi, the wild Indian, etc., the shotney, that we also have to make sure that we can preserve. Carrico and Petit Martinique also has its own unique art forms that we also have to preserve and teach, because if you don't teach it, it's then quite easy for the external influences to come and make you lose your sense of identity, and before you know it, you're competing for, as you say, nudity. So I completely support what you're saying, and thank you for the initiative.
Go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Joseph Antoine. I am the Public Relations Officer, NDC UK Chapter. This is not a question, but it's a statement of facts. I lived through the days of the colonialism. I lived through the days of Gehrig. But one of the most interesting part of my life is seeing you, sir, as Prime Minister of this country. And I pray that we Grenadians, here and abroad, support you with all our energy. I'm not going to sort of make a long statement, but long may you live to reign over this nation. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so very much. And we still have another segment to get to, but I believe we have to take a quick break, and then we'll come right back with our final segment.
Welcome to Caracou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dong Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. Hungry? Start your day at Las Iguanas Cafe in Hermitage, where the aroma of fresh local breakfast fills the air. Think bakes, sawfish, and cocoa tea, all served with island hospitality. For lunch, savor local flavors at Paradise Beach Club, where Allison and her team serve up dishes that capture the essence of Caracou. Are you craving something quick and cheesy? Tina's Pizza is the local go-to spot. Hot, fresh, and always satisfying. As the sun sets, unwind with dinner at the original Slipway. Sip on a cocktail, enjoy gourmet dining by the water, and feel the calm of Caracou wrap around you. It's the perfect end to your day. Caracou is open. Hotels, restaurants, and your favorite spots are back and better than ever. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Welcome back, everyone, our live audience, and of course, our viewing audience, our listening audience. I did say an hour goes by pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, we're past the hour, 8 minutes past 7, so that means we're over the time. But we have one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. Leadership comes with criticism. Is there ever a moment you wish you could respond as Dickon, the individual, and not the Prime Minister?
Well, sometimes I've responded as Deacon and not the Prime Minister. There was once I responded in Parliament, and I got a message from a woman, a wife, who then told me that my comments, if taken out of context, would have potentially been demeaning of women. So I checked myself and made sure therefore that for future purposes, I do check myself with the responses. But usually if I'm being funny or if there's satire, then I'm being Deacon. So, if it's just poking fun. So I think I've been on a few shows where people have asked me to be funny, and I've tried to be funny. I don't know if stand-up comedy would work if this doesn't work. But, I would say this. If someone criticizes me and they're successful, they're well-meaning, you can learn from them, you should pay attention to the criticism. If the people who are criticizing you are people who themselves have nothing to offer, have never been successful, don't work hard, honestly, if you spend your time paying attention to them, all that's happening, you getting distracted, they are winning, and you are not going where you need to go. So, in the words of the rap song, all you need to do is win, 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 right? You keep winning, and then they will keep criticizing, and that's fine.
Now, this engagement was for the diaspora, and before we leave, what message do you want every Grenadian, home and abroad, to take away this evening?
2 messages. There's greatness in every Grenadian. And second, no one is going to build Grenada for us. We are going to build Grenada for ourselves.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. But first, we do have some giveaways, and I'd like to say special thank you to Adult Teen Challenge, Bell Lounge, Pick and See Flavors, Sharon L. Andrews, 3 T's, Sweet Surprise, Jab Juice. Sounds interesting. And Ride Excursions. They'll be providing the prizes for the gifts that some of you will be getting this evening. Has it been a wonderful evening or not? And on that note, I want to say thank you so very much to each and every one of you who came to this engagement. Thank you so very much to our ministers, our ambassadors, our special invited guests. Thank you so much to everyone who are here for the Diaspora Homecoming. I trust you are having a wonderful time. And again, thank you so very much to our radio stations, Power FM, Star FM, We FM, GBN, Fusion FM, Vibes FM, and not forgetting GIS. And those of you who viewed via YouTube and Facebook, thank you as always for being an interactive audience. We truly appreciate you. Thank you so much to the camera crew. I'm not finished as yet. Camera crew making just a round of applause for the camera crew for doing an awesome job. So for those of you who are here, these are the guys who, when we are in studio, who keep the show on the road. And not forgetting our producer, she's not going to like it, but anyways, we're giving flowers in the blue t-shirt and yellow pants. Neela ATN, thank you so much. And I am looking forward to another engagement like this. PM, are you up for it?
I'm up for it anytime.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you so much, live audience. Thank you so much, viewing audience, listening audience. I am Aruna Neptune. It was an absolute pleasure hosting you this evening. Thank you so much.